Previously, we discussed Bibi Netanyahu meeting with influencers. Last week, it was Jewish influencers that I happen to know, Deborah Leah. Well, not know, but know of Deborah Leah and Emily Austin. So yesterday, I also found a clip of a TikToker discussing Christian influencers meeting with Bibi Netanyahu, and here you have it.
Yesterday, I got the honor of meeting with Prime Minister Netanyahu as part of a special focus group for Christian conservative Gen Zers, and we were essentially addressing the concerns that we had, right? There's clearly been a growing divide. He wanted to know why. He wanted to know what Israel could be doing better. He wanted to understand where we were coming from, and to his credit, he did listen to us extremely attentively and took in a lot of what we were saying. And from our end, while of course we were polite and we were there also trying to form more unity, we were asking him the hard questions that a lot of people from our generation have been raising concerns about. For example, and the same way he listened to us and took in our criticisms, I'm truly hoping that you guys will listen to the answer. AIPAC. AIPAC is something that I see all the time. Number one, AIPAC is not an Israeli organization. It has no ties whatsoever to the government of Israel. It's not foreign lobbying. It's a lobbyist group that happens to be lobbying for a certain group of people, right? And this is not unique to Israel. There are multiple countries that do this, and there's multiple different groups that do this. For some reason, people just attach on to AIPAC, despite the fact that AIPAC makes up less than 5% of the lobbying. So if you have a problem with lobbying like me, that's totally fine. I'm against AIPAC because I'm against lobbying. But you can't just hone in on one specific group. If you're going to be against it, then be against it for everybody. Moving on from that, we were asking questions about these rumors that Israel has been going out and funding people. And no, none of us were paid for that meeting, but I wish. Bibi, if you want to write the 150 million check, go for it. But we asked about funding, and as he explained, Israel is not offering to fund anybody. They're not trying to get involved in American political advocacy groups. That has never happened. And if you're concerned about this, who you should be concerned about is Qatar, because they are doing this. They are going out and funding these universities and these political organizations. Many of these protests/riots that you see destroying our cities, a lot of that has foreign funding from Qatar. And yet people are silent about it, or they're pointing the finger at Israel for something that they're not even doing. The last thing that we really touched on was the aid. People don't know this, but Netanyahu's first address to Congress was to say that they didn't want aid. Jimmy Carter, who is a notoriously anti-Israel president, is actually who started this because he saw that Israel was building up their air force and he didn't want them to. So he gave them aid that they could only use to buy military weapons from us, and they had to agree to shut down their manufacturers. So now they're dependent in a way on this aid for military operations that America doesn't want them to lose, because we use it as a leash on them. And I think people need to understand that maybe a little bit more. But it was an extremely incredible opportunity. I'm very grateful for his time, and I really hope some positive change comes out of it, and some people will do some more research rather than believing everything they see online.
There's a lot to unpack there. So this is illustrating that Israel is actively trying to counter the negative narratives that are happening in America, and they're doing so through the social media influencers, as we've discussed before. But I think they're doing it in the wrong way. So I don't think you should silence dissenters, and that's something that I came across that some people on social media are already saying has happened now that TikTok has been purchased by people that are being described as Zionists. They're Jewish. They may not be Zionists. And they're, as this TikToker is doing, she met with Bibi Netanyahu, and immediately she's saying, it's not necessarily propaganda, but she's saying things that she learned from Bibi and things that they discuss, which has a slight Israel bias or Israel slant. Not necessarily bias, but an Israel slant. So based upon the crackdown that I'm seeing on, or hearing about on X and other platforms, and the crackdown is not surprising because last week we talked about how Bibi wanted to speak to Elon. It seems that he may have already spoken to him. I don't think that this crackdown will work the way Bibi's intending, because in the younger generation, we go for authenticity. We want honesty. So if we're used to talking about Palestine and used to talking about Gaza, if our comments are now being removed or our posts are being either shadow banned or having limited reach, we're going to put two and two together and understand now that China is not in control of TikTok and Israel is in control of TikTok, it's because Israel is in control of TikTok that posts that are pro-Gaza are being limited in reach. And it's that reason why certain comments and things that are seen as anti-Israel are being somewhat suppressed. A better approach by Israel would be to have the influencers speak to the people who comment on Instagram and X and have a dialogue with them. Maybe the American public is not 100% in agreement with Israel, but we may be able to find a lot of things we have common ground on. I do believe that the ADL, for example, which recently removed some of the names on their hate list and also said that they were open to changing the way that they describe hate groups. I do believe that Israel is on the right track. Well, not Israel. The ADL who, see, this gets trickier. I guess when we talk about ADL, Mossad, Israel, the IDF, and the Jews, people kind of take each of those entities and use them interchangeably. But the ADL is run by Jewish people and they influence American politics. So they are Jewish and they are pro-Israel. So I do believe that the ADL is on the right track with at least acknowledging that their way of describing hate groups and their narrative and perspective is not doing well now, and they're at least open to publicly acknowledging, being open to hearing what other groups have to say and potentially changing their narrative. They haven't gone as far as changing the definition of anti-Semitism, which they already did, and that's something I personally have an issue with. I would like them to not say that just because you criticize Israel, you're being anti-Semitic. I think that anti-Semitism is when you dislike Jewish people or dislike Arabs, because Arabs are also Semites. And I believe that if you have a hatred towards them because of their religion, you're anti-Semitic. But if you're only criticizing the Israel government, that should be seen as criticizing any government, whether it's China, whether it's America. In America, we criticize the American government, and Americans, we criticize other governments. Israel is the only government that if you criticize them, you're labeled something and you're also dissented. So if America allows freedom of speech, we should have freedom of speech for everyone, including Israel. Now that I've covered topics with Israel twice, we may be covering this some more because this is a topic that I see online a lot. I'm interested in it. I have somewhat of a knowledge about, some knowledge, not a lot, but some knowledge about the historical migration of the people in the diaspora. And seeing that there is some hate online, I'm interested in finding out more to see if there are ways that the anti-Semites or the people who dislike the Jewish culture or the Jewish people, I'm interested in seeing if there are ways that those people and the Jewish people themselves could find common ground, because what I would like to see is less argument, less violence, and just a way that we can coexist, more peacefully as a society.